I never imagined I would leave my parents and sister stranded and shivering in the biting 14-degree air of Aspen, Colorado, while I sat sipping Opus 1 wine by my private fireplace. But that is exactly what happened just 15 minutes after my sister Sadie shoved me right in the lobby of a five-star hotel, causing me to fall and crack the face of the vintage Cartier watch my grandmother left me. Instead of apologizing, she laughed and said I fell on purpose to play the victim. My parents laughed along with her. But their smiles would vanish instantly the moment I whispered to the hotel manager, "Don't refund their rooms, charge me the full amount, but ensure their key cards never work. I want them to look at empty rooms they are forbidden to enter." I would pay the full $39,000 for this entire trip, of which $25,000 was for the hotel rooms without blinking. The total cost for my freedom? A shattered heirloom, and a small fortune. My regrets? Zero. To understand how I ended up there, watching my family shivering in the cold, I must recount what happened before. I am Grace Holloway. To the public, I am the owner of Holloway Design Group, an architect who just closed a multi-million-dollar contract. But to my family, I am simply the bank. The only reason I have supported them for the past 10 years lies in a promise to my grandmother before she died of cancer. She held my hand, fastened her vintage Cartier tank watch onto my wrist, and instructed, "Grace, you are the strongest one. Promise me you will keep this family from falling apart, at least until your parents are old." Because of that promise, I paid for Sadie's car lease, paid off my parents' debts, and let them live rent-free in the apartment I own. I wore that watch every day as a reminder of my responsibility. The weight of it on my wrist was constant, familiar, grounding. The blued steel hands moved forward relentlessly, marking time I could never get back, hours spent working late to fund a family that saw me as nothing more than a convenient ATM. For my parents' 35th wedding anniversary, I covered the entire $39,000 cost for a trip to Aspen. I booked everything myself: the flights, the resort, the dinner reservations at Matsuhisa. I wanted to do something nice. I wanted, stupidly, to believe that generosity might finally earn me the same affection they showered on Sadie. On the flight to Colorado, I booked first class for the whole family. The cabin smelled like leather and expensive cologne. I settled into my seat by the window, my laptop bag tucked under the seat in front of me, already mentally reviewing the hotel check-in process. I had color-coded confirmation emails. I had printed backup reservations. I was prepared for everything except what actually happened. When the flight attendant brought a tray of vintage champagne and delicate flutes, Sadie, who was filming a vlog on her phone, reached over from the seat beside me and snatched the glass from my hand before I could even take a sip. "Drink water, Grace. Your face gets red and it looks bad on camera," she said, not even looking at me. She angled the phone to capture the champagne flute, the bubbles catching the overhead light. "Let me hold this glass to check in for the aesthetic." She turned the camera away from me deliberately, framing the shot so I didn't exist. I watched her film herself pretending to sip champagne she wouldn't actually drink. Sadie never consumed calories she couldn't monetize while I sat there with empty hands. In the row ahead, my mother unwrapped a gift Sadie had just given her. A Dior silk scarf, in dove gray, with delicate embroidered edges. Mom held it up to the light, cooing like Sadie had just handed her the Hope Diamond. "Oh, Sadie, you always have the best taste. You are so thoughtful." Mom draped the scarf around her neck, admiring herself in her phone camera. Unlike Grace, she makes so much money but is so dry. She never buys anything for Mom with any heart. The words landed like a slap. Dry. Heartless. I had literally paid for the seats they were sitting in, the trip they were taking, the roof over their heads for the past decade. But sure. I was the heartless one. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I pulled it out. Notification from American Express. Transaction approved. $850 at Dior Boutique. Supplementary card holder. Grace Holloway. I stared at the screen. Then at my mother, stroking the scarf with reverent fingers. Then at Sadie, who was now panning her camera across the first-class cabin, narrating in her fake breathy voice about treating yourself to luxury. She had bought our mother a gift with my credit card, and was now accepting praise for her thoughtfulness while calling me heartless. The flight attendant returned, her expression carefully neutral but her eyes kind. She had witnessed the entire exchange, the champagne theft, my mother's casual cruelty. She leaned down and whispered, "Miss Holloway, would you like me to get you a fresh glass?" I looked up at her. She was young, maybe 25, with her hair pulled back in a tight bun and a name tag that read, Jennifer. She didn't have to be kind to me. It wasn't her job to notice when passengers were being mistreated by their own families. "No, thank you," I said quietly. My voice sounded hollow even to my own ears. I put on my noise-canceling headphones and closed my eyes. Through the window, clouds stretched endlessly white and untouchable. I wasn't angry yet. I was just utterly, devastatingly disappointed. The Cartier watch ticked steadily on my wrist, counting down the seconds until I would finally understand that some promises aren't worth keeping. After landing, the transition from the pressurized warmth of the cabin to the biting reality of the Colorado mountains was instantaneous. The cold didn't just greet us at the Aspen tarmac, it assaulted us, a physical wall of biting 14-degree air that seemed to freeze the breath in my lungs before I even reached the terminal. My family clustered around the baggage claim, Sadie filming herself against the backdrop of ski equipment and fur-trimmed parkas. "Just landed in Aspen," she chirped at her phone. "Winter Wonderland vibes. Can't wait to show you guys the resort." I excused myself to find the restroom, wheeling my carry-on behind me. The airport bathroom was surprisingly elegant, marble sinks, soft lighting, the faint scent of cedar. I set my bag against the wall and turned on the faucet, letting cold water run over my hands. That's when I heard Sadie's voice from inside one of the stalls, sharp and panicked. "Don't worry, I'll get that setting," she hissed into her phone. "The master suite at the Little Nell has a jacuzzi tub overlooking the mountains. I already signed the contract with that lingerie brand. If I don't post the photos by Monday, they'll sue me for breach of contract." I froze, water still running over my hands. She continued, "The lighting is perfect for the shoot. I scouted it online. My agent already sent them mock-ups with that exact bathroom. If I don't deliver, I'm screwed. The contract is for $1,500 and I already spent it." I turned off the faucet slowly. The master suite. She hadn't asked me if she could stay there. She simply assumed no. She had already planned that the best room would belong to her. She had signed contracts, made promises to sponsors, built an entire business plan around a room I was paying for, in a trip I had organized, without once considering that I might want something for myself. I dried my hands carefully, watching my reflection in the mirror. My face looked tired. I looked like someone who had been running on empty for years and was only just now noticing. When Sadie emerged from the stall, she startled when she saw me. "Grace, you scared me." She tucked her phone into her purse. "How long have you been standing there?" "Just washing my hands," I said evenly. She studied me for a moment, then shrugged and moved to the mirror, pulling out her lip gloss. "Can you believe how cold it is?" "I'm definitely getting hot stone massages every day. You booked the spa package, right?" "I booked everything," I said. "Perfect." She smacked her lips together. "Okay, let's go. I want to get to the hotel and start shooting before the light changes." We arrived at the Little Nell 30 minutes later in a black SUV I had arranged. The hotel rose against the mountain like something from a dream, all stone and timber and floor-to-ceiling windows that reflected the snow-covered peaks. The lobby was breathtaking. Soaring ceilings, a massive fireplace crackling with real wood, marble columns that gleamed under crystal chandeliers. Mr. Murphy, the general manager, greeted us personally. He was in his 50s, silver-haired, with the kind of calm competence that came from years of managing the ultra-wealthy and their drama. "Miss Holloway," he said, extending his hand to me. Not to my father, not to my mother, to me. Because he had done his research and knew exactly who was paying the bill. "Welcome to the Little Nell. We have your rooms ready." He gestured to the front desk, where 4 key cards waited in small paper sleeves, each embossed with the hotel logo. Sadie lunged forward immediately, her hand shooting out to grab the card labeled Master Suite. I caught her wrist. "No, Sadie." She looked at me like I had just spoken in a foreign language. "What?" "You didn't pay for this trip," I said, my voice low and level. "The master suite is mine. You can take one of the deluxe rooms downstairs." Her face transformed. The Instagram smile vanished, replaced by something ugly and desperate. "Don't be so selfish. You don't even take photos. I need that room." "That's not my problem." "Give it here." She lunged at me, grabbing the strap of my Bottega Veneta bag where I had tucked the keycards for safekeeping. I held the bag tight instinctively, pulling back. Sadie, stop. We struggled for a moment, right there in the middle of the lobby. Her perfectly manicured nails dug into the leather. My shoulder wrenched as she yanked harder. People were staring now, well-dressed guests pausing mid-stride, a couple at the concierge desk turning to watch. Then Sadie did something I will never forget. She smirked. And she released her grip with full force, a deliberate shove that sent me stumbling backward. The sudden loss of resistance threw off my balance. My high heels Louboutin pumps I had bought for client meetings, elegant but impractical, slipped on the polished marble floor. I fell hard, my left wrist smashing violently against the marble column behind me before I hit the ground. The impact rang out dry and harsh, tearing through the quiet space. I looked down at my wrist, at my grandmother's watch. The sapphire crystal, once transparent and proud, had turned into a chaotic spiderweb of white cracks. At the point of impact, the glass had shattered completely, exposing the Roman numeral dial beneath, now scratched by sharp debris. The signature blued steel hands were jammed, bent at unnatural angles, permanently stopped at 4:25 p.m., the exact moment everything broke. Glittering shards of glass dust fell onto the cold marble floor, beautiful but cruel. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't hear anything except the ringing in my ears and the thundering of my own heartbeat. The watch face was destroyed. The promise was destroyed. I looked up at Sadie. She wasn't scared. She wasn't apologetic. She rolled her eyes dramatically, already playing to her invisible audience. "Oh my, you are so clumsy." She laughed, loud and performative. "I didn't even touch you. You threw yourself on the floor to play the victim. Stop acting like a martyr and give me the key." My mother's voice cut through the lobby. "Grace, get up. Don't embarrass the family." She glanced around at the watching guests, her face tight with mortification, not at Sadie's behavior, but at mine for making a scene. "It's just an old watch. Buy a new one." Just an old watch. My grandmother's last gift to me, the symbol of a promise I had killed myself to keep. The weight I had carried on my wrist for 10 years. Just an old watch. Something inside me cracked wider than the crystal face. Mr. Murphy moved before I could even process what was happening. He appeared at my side with 2 large security guards, their presence sudden and commanding. They didn't speak to my family. They didn't ask Sadie what happened. They focused entirely on me. "Miss Holloway," Mr. Murphy said quietly, extending his hand to help me up. His grip was steady, professional. "Are you injured?" I let him pull me to my feet. My wrist throbbed where it had hit the column, but nothing felt broken. Just bruised. Just shattered. "I'm fine," I said, automatically. Our high-definition cameras in the lobby recorded the entire altercation, Mr. Murphy continued, his voice low enough that only I could hear. He gestured subtly to the discreet cameras mounted in the corners of the ceiling. "I have directed security to store the footage in our legal safe. If your lawyer needs it for assault charges, it is ready." The words camera and lawyer hung in the air like a grenade. I watched the blood drain from Sadie's face. Her mouth opened, then closed. For once in her life, she had nothing to say. But she didn't apologize. She just stood there, betting on my passivity. Betting that I would do what I always did, smooth things over, pay for the damage, pretend nothing happened. She was counting on me to be the bank, reliable and stupid, and endlessly forgiving. I looked down at the broken watch. Tiny shards of crystal still clung to the bezel, catching the light from the chandelier above. The hands were frozen at 4:25 p.m., the moment the promise shattered. My grandmother had asked me to keep the family together. But she had never met this version of them, the version that laughed while I bled, that took and took and took until there was nothing left of me but an open wallet and a broken watch. The promise had shattered along with the glass face. "Thank you, Mr. Murphy," I said. My voice sounded different, colder, clearer. "Keep that tape safe. Don't release it just yet. My lawyer will be in touch." Sadie's eyes went wide. "Grace, come on. Don't be dramatic." "Step back, please," one of the security guards said to her, not aggressively but firmly, a wall of professional politeness that still made it clear she needed to stop talking. My father finally spoke up, his voice booming across the lobby. "Grace, this is ridiculous. Your sister didn't mean anything by it. You're blowing this out of proportion." I turned to look at him. Really look at him. Aiden Holloway still had the posture of a man who expected the world to bend to his will. He had declared bankruptcy twice in his life, had failed at 3 different business ventures, and was currently living rent-free in an apartment I owned. But he still spoke with the authority of someone who had never faced real consequences. Blowing it out of proportion. I repeated slowly. She destroyed an irreplaceable family heirloom and laughed about it. But I'm the one being dramatic. "It was an accident," my mother chimed in. Sarah Holloway clutched her new Dior scarf, the one I had unknowingly paid for, like it might protect her from the tension crackling through the lobby. "Sadie would never hurt you on purpose." I almost laughed. Would never hurt me on purpose. As if the past 10 years hadn't been a masterclass in casual cruelty. As if every snide comment, every exploitation of my money, every moment of being treated like an ATM with legs hadn't been a deliberate choice. "Mr. Murphy," I said, turning my back on my family, "I'd like to speak with you privately at the front desk." "Of course, Miss Holloway." I walked away from them, my heels clicking on the marble floor. Each step felt lighter than the last, like I was shedding weight I hadn't realized I was carrying. Behind me, I heard Sadie hiss something to our parents, but I didn't turn around. Mr. Murphy led me to the far end of the front desk, away from the other guests. The young woman working the computer discreetly stepped away to give us privacy. "I apologize for the disturbance," he said quietly. "You have nothing to apologize for." I set my bag on the counter and pulled out my phone. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." "Of course." "If I wanted to ensure that those 3 people never set foot in the rooms they're supposed to be staying in, could you make that happen?" Mr. Murphy didn't even blink. He had probably seen stranger requests from wealthy guests. "The reservation is under your name, Miss Holloway. You have full authority over the rooms. Even though we're past the 24-hour cancellation window? Cancellation policies are designed to protect the hotel's revenue," he said carefully. "If you're willing to pay for the rooms regardless of whether they're occupied, then the rooms are yours to do with as you please." I looked at him. Really looked at him. He understood exactly what I was asking. And he was telling me, in the careful language of high-end hospitality, that he would help me. "How much would it cost?" I asked. "To pay for all 4 rooms but only actually use one of them?" He typed something into the computer, his fingers moving quickly over the keys. "The 2 additional rooms total, approximately $14,000 for the 3-night stay. Combined with your master suite and the incidental charges, the full amount would be approximately $25,000. $14,000 to leave my family in the cold." I thought about my grandmother, holding my hand in her hospital bed. I thought about the promise I had made. I thought about the watch, now broken beyond repair. Then I thought about Sadie laughing as I fell. About my mother calling me heartless while wearing an $850 scarf I had paid for. About my father telling me I was being dramatic while he lived rent-free in my apartment. I pulled out my American Express black card and set it on the counter. "Charge the full amount," I said. "But I only want 1 key card to work. Mine." Mr. Murphy picked up the card, his expression unchanged. "Understood, Miss Holloway. Will there be anything else?" "Yes," I said. "I'd like you to deactivate the other 2 key cards immediately. And if they ask why they're not working, tell them to speak with me directly." The corners of his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. "It would be my pleasure." I separated from my family completely, staying at the front desk with Mr. Murphy while they hovered near the luggage pile about 20 feet away. They could see me talking, could see me handing over my credit card, but they couldn't hear what I was saying. My mother kept glancing over, her face pinched with curiosity and irritation. Sadie had her arms crossed, tapping her foot impatiently. My father checked his watch every 30 seconds like a man used to other people hurrying for him. "Mr. Murphy swiped my card with practiced efficiency. "Regarding the remaining 2 rooms, Miss Holloway," he said, his voice low and professional, "I must inform you that the 24-hour cancellation policy means no refunds if you choose to cancel at this time." I looked him straight in the eye. This was the moment. The point of no return. "Mr. Murphy, you misunderstand. I don't want a refund." I watched his expression carefully. He didn't flinch, didn't show surprise. He simply waited for me to continue. Please charge the full $25,000 to my American Express Black Card. I am happy to pay that amount. He remained perfectly calm, absorbing the information that I would pay for 2 rooms no one would sleep in. Perhaps he had worked here long enough to understand how the wealthy use money not just to buy things, but to buy outcomes. Control, distance, freedom. I am paying for privacy, I continued, keeping my voice steady and clear. I want those 2 rooms to remain empty. Please deactivate their room key cards immediately. Do not let anyone, especially those 3 over there, enter them. I am paying $14,000 just to know those rooms are empty and they are locked out. Do you understand? Mr. Murphy paused for exactly 3 seconds. Then he nodded with professional respect, the kind reserved for clients who knew exactly what they wanted and had the means to make it happen. Understood, Miss Holloway. The rooms are paid for and sealed. No one will enter. He processed the transaction with smooth efficiency. I watched the numbers flash on the screen. $25,000. Charged, approved, done. He handed me back my card along with a single key card in a paper sleeve. Your master suite is on the 5th floor, room 512. The elevator is to your left. Is there anything else I can assist you with? Actually, yes. I tucked the key card into my bag. When they try to use their key cards and realize they don't work, I imagine they'll come back here demanding answers. What will you tell them? His expression didn't change. I will inform them that there was an issue with their reservation, and direct them to speak with you, as you are the primary account holder. Perfect. I turned and walked toward the elevator where my family was already waiting with their luggage. They had clearly decided to go up without me, probably still assuming I was just handling some minor billing issue. Sadie was frantically swiping her keycard against the elevator reader. The light flashed red. She swiped again. Red. Again. Red. This stupid elevator is broken. She snapped, smacking the reader with her card. My mother tried her card. Red light. My father tried his. Red light. I walked over calmly, my heels clicking on the marble. They all turned to look at me. The elevator's not broken, Sadie said irritably. Our cards aren't working. Must be defective. Go tell them to make new ones. I pulled out my key card, swiped it against the reader. Beep, green light. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime. I stepped inside alone and turned to face them. They stood there in the lobby, surrounded by their luggage, confusion starting to shift into suspicion on their faces. It's not broken, I said calmly. I just deactivated everyone's keys. The doors began to close. For a moment, they just stared at me through the shrinking gap in the elevator doors. Then reality hit. My father's face turned purple. He lunged forward, trying to wedge his hand between the closing doors, but he was too slow. The elevator sealed shut with a definitive click. I pressed the button for the 5th floor and watched the numbers climb. 1, 2, 3. My heart was pounding, but not with fear, with something else. Something that felt dangerously close to exhilaration. The elevator dinged. 5th floor. I stepped out into a quiet hallway, plush carpet muffling my footsteps. Room 512 was at the end of the corridor. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The master suite was spectacular. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the snow-covered mountains, a king bed with crisp white linens, a sitting area with a fireplace already crackling. And yes, a jacuzzi tub in the bathroom, with a view that probably cost more per night than most people's rent. I set my bag down and walked to the window. Outside, snow fell in soft, lazy flakes. Skiers dotted the slopes in the distance, tiny figures carving through powder. My phone started ringing immediately. I pulled it out. 17 missed calls, texts flooding in. Mom, where are you? Dad, this is unacceptable. Come down here right now. Sadie, are you stupid kidding me, Grace? This isn't funny. Sadie, I have a contract, I need that room. Mom, your father is talking to the manager. You can't do this to us. I muted the notifications and opened my banking app instead. American Express had a feature that let me manage supplementary cards. I pulled up the account. 2 supplementary cards were listed. Aiden Holloway, Sarah Holloway, Sadie Holloway. I selected all 3. Clicked, deactivate card. A warning popped up. Are you sure? This action will immediately cancel all purchasing power for these cardholders. I clicked, confirm. Transaction processed. Cards deactivated. My phone immediately started ringing again. I ignored it and called my lawyer instead. Richard answered on the second ring. Grace? Aren't you supposed to be on vacation? I need you to file a notice of termination of tenancy for the Chicago apartment. First thing Monday morning. Silence on the other end. Then, the apartment your parents are living in? Yes. 30-day notice. Exactly as the lease allows. I want it in writing, certified mail, the whole thing. May I ask what happened? My sister destroyed my grandmother's watch and laughed about it. My parents took her side. I'm done, Richard. File the paperwork. Consider it done. Anything else? Yes. Can you put the apartment on the market? I want it listed as soon as they're out. I'll have it listed within the hour of their departure. Grace. Are you sure about this? I looked around the master suite. At the fireplace. At the view. At the bottle of Opus 1 the hotel had left as a welcome gift. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Understood. I'll handle it. I hung up and poured myself a glass of wine. The Opus 1 was smooth and rich, tasting like it cost exactly what it did. I sat down in the leather chair by the fireplace and finally let myself breathe. My phone buzzed. A call this time, not a text. Sadie. I answered and put it on speaker. Grace. Her voice was shrill, panicked. What on earth is going on? Our cards aren't working. I know, I said calmly, taking another sip of wine. I deactivated them about 10 minutes ago. You can't do that. Actually, I can. They're supplementary cards on my account. I can activate or deactivate them whenever I want. But I need... She was sputtering now, her influencer polish completely gone. I have expenses. I have bills. Then I suggest you pay them with your own money. I don't have money. You know that. That sounds like a personal problem, Sadie. My mother's voice came through the phone, shrill and desperate. Grace Elizabeth Holloway, you stop this right now. Your father and I need those cards. How are we supposed to eat? The same way everyone else does, with money you earned. We're your parents, my father roared. You owe us. I laughed. Actually laughed. I don't owe you anything. I've paid your rent for 10 years. I've cleared your debts twice. I've funded your lifestyle while you criticized me for being dry and heartless. But I'm done now. You can't just kick us out. Sadie screamed. Where are we supposed to go? I don't know, I said pleasantly. And by the way, I just got off the phone with my lawyer. We're filing a notice of termination of tenancy Monday morning. The apartment is being listed for sale. You have exactly 30 days to move out. The silence on the other end was deafening. Then my mother started crying. Grace, please, you can't do this to us. We're family. Family doesn't destroy irreplaceable heirlooms and laugh about it. Family doesn't exploit someone for 10 years and call them selfish when they finally say no. You made your choices. I'm making mine. What about the hotel? My father demanded. We don't have anywhere to sleep. That's not my problem. I paid for the rooms. But I paid to keep them empty, not for you to use them. Mr. Murphy has been very accommodating. This is insane, Sadie shrieked. You're being psychotic. No, I'm being rational for the first time in a decade. Oh, and Sadie? That lingerie sponsorship you were planning to shoot in this suite? You might want to call your agent and explain that you won't be able to deliver on that contract. I hear breach of contract lawsuits can be expensive. I heard her gasp. She'd forgotten I overheard her in the airport bathroom. How did you... I advise you all to start saving money for a moving truck, I continued, my voice ice-cold and perfectly calm, instead of riding the ski lift. Grace. I hung up. For a moment, I just sat there in the silence of the master suite, the fire crackling softly, snow falling outside the windows. Then I stood up, walked to the bathroom, and started running a bath in that ridiculously expensive jacuzzi tub. I caught sight of myself in the mirror. My wrist was already bruising where I'd hit the column. The Cartier watch hung loose on my wrist, the broken crystal catching the light, the frozen hands permanently marking 4:25 p.m. I unclasped it carefully and set it on the marble counter. Without it, my wrist felt lighter, naked, free. The cost of my freedom, one shattered heirloom, $39,000, and a family that never really loved me anyway. My regrets? NW. NW. 0. Time inside the master suite ceased to be measured by hours or schedules, but by the rhythmic accumulation of snow on the balcony and the changing angle of light across the mountains. For 72 hours, the world outside simply ceased to exist. I ordered room service at odd hours, steak frites, champagne and oysters for dinner, and watched the snow accumulate on the mountains through floor-to-ceiling windows. The silence was intoxicating. No manufactured crises. No guilt trips disguised as family dinners. Just me, the crackling fireplace, and the kind of peace I hadn't felt in years. I didn't think much about where my family had gone until checkout, when Mr. Murphy mentioned in passing that they'd caught a Greyhound to a motel 2 towns over. Apparently, none of them had enough cash left for even the cheapest Aspen accommodation after their shopping spree. The image of Sadie, who once spent 20 minutes complaining that her latte foam wasn't Instagram-worthy riding a bus to a roadside motel, made me smile into my coffee. The real chaos started when I landed back in Chicago. My phone exploded with notifications the moment I turned off airplane mode. Texts from former college friends I hadn't spoken to in years. DMs from professional contacts. Even my hairdresser sent a concerned message. All of them had seen Sadie's livestream. I watched it once, my jaw clenching tighter with every word. There she was, tear-stained and trembling in that awful motel room, spinning a tale about her abusive older sister, who had abandoned elderly parents in a blizzard and physically assaulted her in a hotel lobby. She'd even managed to work in some nonsense about me being jealous of her successful influencer career. The comments were vicious, strangers calling me a monster, demanding I be cancelled. Some particularly creative souls had already found my business Instagram and were leaving 1-star reviews they'd never be able to post. I felt the old instinct rising, the need to defend myself, to explain, to make people understand. That's what the old Grace would have done, written a long post, provided context, begged for understanding. Instead, I opened my laptop and composed exactly one email, to sadie.holloway@gmail.com, cc aiden.holloway@gmail.com, sarah.holloway@gmail.com. Subject: Legal notice. Attachments: Aspen Incident Report. PDF: Notice to vacate. PDF. The incident report was beautifully official, Mr. Murphy's signature at the bottom, the hotel's legal letterhead at the top, and one particularly relevant line highlighted. Security footage confirms Miss S. Holloway initiated physical contact by grabbing Miss G, Holloway's personal property. Video evidence retained for potential legal proceedings. The eviction notice was even better. 30 days to vacate. Property listed for sale. Residency rights terminated. My message contained one sentence: I don't argue with liars. If that defamatory video is not deleted in 10 minutes, my lawyer will subpoena the security footage from the hotel and file a lawsuit for assault and defamation. The clock is ticking. I pressed send at 6:47 p.m. The video disappeared at 6:55 p.m. I poured myself a very expensive bourbon and toasted the empty apartment. They moved out 3 weeks later. I had the locks changed the same day and put the place on the market within the week. It sold in 48 hours. Turns out luxury apartments in that building don't stay available long. The winter snow of Aspen has long since melted, replaced by the humid, vibrant heat of a Chicago summer. Yet the clarity I found in that cold mountain air hasn't faded. It has been 5 months since the incident, and looking around my life now, it is unrecognizable in the best possible way. Holloway Design Group landed 2 major contracts, a boutique hotel renovation and a private residence that's going to be featured in Architectural Digest. I bought a south-facing house in West Loop, all exposed brick and original hardwood floors, and renovated it exactly to my specifications. No compromises. No, but what about when family visits? Considerations. Just clean lines, flooded with natural light, and a home office with custom built-ins for my drafting table. I haven't given my family the new address. My parents are renting a small apartment somewhere on the north side, I'm not entirely sure where. They've been texting me through various relatives, calling me heartless and ungrateful. Aunt Linda sent a particularly aggressive message about how I'm abandoning my elderly parents and should be ashamed. I blocked her. Number. The thing is, I don't feel ashamed. I feel free. But lately, I've been standing at a crossroads, and I genuinely don't know which path to take. Option A. Maintain absolute no contact, They're adults. They made their choice when Sadie grabbed my bag, when my mother called me an ungrateful monster, when my father stood silent in that lobby. They made their choice every single time they prioritized Sadie's feelings over basic decency toward me. Option B. Buy them a very small, run-down condo in some distant suburb. Make sure they're not homeless, but never speak to them again. Fulfill some final obligation to the people who raised me, then walk away with a clear conscience. I keep thinking about that Cartier watch, still broken in my jewelry box. I'll never repair it, but I can't seem to throw it away either. So I'm asking you, what would you do?